Hello, welcome for this new video, the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. Today we are going to end the series of practices about space in emptiness, verses 49, 50 and 51. Let's start with the verse 51 in Sanskrit. I will try to translate and offer my explanation. Then we'll have a look at the Sanskrit traditional commentaries. So, verse 49. Om hṛdyākāśe nilīnākṣaḥ padmasampuṭamadhyagaḥ ananyacetāḥ subhage paraṃ saubhāgyam āpnuyāt. O subhage, subhaga, you who have a good matrix, or who have the good part, and who have good parts, and who is beautiful, can have all those meanings because bhagam can mean the part, one's destiny, one's doom, and one's matrix for a woman. Subhage, oh you who are beautiful, auspicious, happy. Saubhāgyam paraṃ āpnuyāt. She shall get the supreme happiness, the supreme auspiciousness, the supreme beauty. So here you see there is, as there are very often, there is one of those play on sounds that in French we called allitération, like a sound is repeating on more or less the same sound. Subhage paraṃ saubhāgyam. Subhage saubhāgyam. Saubhāgyam is built upon subhaga. It is a development, a substantivation of the word subhaga. So he, she, the adept, the yogi, the yogini, shall get supreme happiness, O happy one. Ananyacetāḥ, if her attention is nowhere else, is fixed. We have met that expression often, and in fact it is another way to say nirvikalpa that we had in the previous verses. Nirvikalpa means nirvikalpa manaḥ, with undivided attention, and here with attention that is nowhere else, ananya, on nothing else, or attached to nothing else, or projected on nothing else. Ananya, anya, another, ananya, not another, one who has her attention not on another. And that one who has attention fixed on nothing else has attention fixed where? Nothing else than what? Attention fixed padmasampuṭamadhyagaḥ, in the middle of the two hemispheres around the heart. That is, when the two hemispheres are completely joined. So what does that mean? In fact, it is alluding to practices of visualizations of the subtle body around also the practice of breath. The two hemispheres are the two the in-breath and the out-breath, and one shall practice that nilīnākṣaḥ, with closed eyes and with closed organs, in turning around attention, hṛdyākāśe, and putting one's attention in the space of the heart. In the space of the heart. So you see, the commentator says that this space, ākāśe, prana apana antarālapade, is in the interval, in between out-breath and in-breath. It's again the same practice of listening to the end of out-breath before the next in-breath comes about. So in between out-breath and in-breath, and that space is the space of the heart. But I would rather say that if it is the space of the heart, it is rather the end of the in-breath, because the in-breath ends in the heart. Okay, it goes out like this, or like this, from the point of view of inner experience, but it goes in-breath. It goes in the heart, in the center of the breast, in the center of the lungs, in the heart. So it is here a practice of introverting and turning one's attention to the end of each in-breath. The end of each in-breath. The space of the heart. Padmasampuṭamadhyagaḥ, which is in the center of the sphere of the two lotuses, like two half spheres put like this. So this is an image of the subtle body of the heart, but concretely, I don't think here there is a practice of visualizing. There is an allusion, it alludes to, by its wording of the practice, but the practice itself is just a simple practice of paying attention to the end of in-breath, and not even each in-breath, but just one in-breath, like an inverted Om. That's the practice here. Here we invert, because in-breath is an inverted out-breath. So we go back to the source, to the beginning of the mantra. You remember that with each movement, breath, physical movement, thought, emotion, mantra, we can practice paying attention to the beginning or to the end. Here, it is the practice of paying attention to the beginning, or rather going back to the beginning, to the source, to the surge, to the vibration, which is at the source of the movement of the out-breath. So the end of the in-breath and the beginning of the out-breath. The beginning of the out-breath, which is the beginning of Om, of any mantra, of any word as well. So that's it for that first practice. And the commentary Urdhva Dharagata Padma. You see the commentator paraphrases this padmasampuṭamadhyagaḥ by this expression Urdhva Adhara Gata padmasampuṭamadhyam gato bhavanayānupravishtaḥ. So, and here he gives a more a different interpretation of those two lotuses. Urdhvagatam padmam, the one which is upward, which is going upward, is pramanam, the way of knowing, the experiences, the cognitive means of perception, of cognition rather. Adharagardam prameyam, and the one who goes down, the in-breath, the downward lotus, the one which is below, is the object, the content, if you will, of experience. That is, One is experience, the other is the content of experience, or the subject and the object. Tayor madhye, in the middle of them, chinmatra ki pramatari, in the knowing subject, designed by the expression pure and simple awareness, chinmatra. Swaswarupe, and it is our own essence, sthitaha, and one dwells there. And one, in that way, vikāsena, by that expanding of that interval between in-breath and out-breath, by putting one's attention there, it expands, and the in-breath and the out-breath get less and less physical, gross, perceptible, and more subtle, fine, faint. Vikāsena, one get paramanandam, etc., etc. So, and he says also that this is called padmasampuṭamadhyagaḥ rupena. Anyway, chit prakashatam, one gets to the light of consciousness, nimesho nmeshatma sankocha vikasa dharmakatvat, because the light of consciousness, because consciousness has the power to expand and to contract, to open and to close. And this is very important, because this is the difference between that tradition, that teaching, and other teachings which resemble that non-dual tantric tradition, like Vedanta. Vedanta, like Kashmir Shaivism, speaks of pure consciousness, of pure awareness, but it's not the same, because for Vedanta, awareness is nishkriya, it is without activity, without action, because there is nothing else beyond her, whether outside, whether inside her, there is nothing else. So in fact, that awareness is not really aware, because it is aware of nothing. So it's not really awareness, it's not consciousness. Pure consciousness in Advaita Vedanta is just pure unconsciousness, it's nothingness. And so here in Kashmir Shaivism, consciousness is alive, and alive means expanding and contracting, means playing, means sort of dancing the dance of opening up to a diversity that she emits in herself, within herself, her own space, and closing, that is forgetting all those contents of experience. And that means waking state, opening, and deep sleep state, closing, and absorbing everything into herself back. And that vibration, that movement of expanding and contracting, of opening and closing, is not an accident in foreign to consciousness herself. It is not agantuka, it is not an accident that coming from the outside, or coming, we don't know from where exactly. Where does that ignorance, avidya of Vedanta come from? We don't know. But here there is a kind of ignorance, there is a kind of blindness, but it is a self-blindness that is freely assumed, that is freely taken on. consciousness plays, and to play, ignorance is necessary. Self-forgetting or partial self-forgetting is necessary because otherwise nothing would manifest. And so that dance, that movement of opening up to duality and closing in to pure unity are both aspects of the reality that is consciousness. It's not like one is real, the deep sleep is real, and waking is false. No, both are true, and both are equally free manifestations of consciousness. There is not one above the other. What is above both is the freedom that is consciousness to manifest as the pure unity of deep sleep or as the rich duality of waking state. So, beside that practice of attending to the end of in-breath, there is also that symbolic or philosophical meaning. And the two spheres in the heart, they also refer to the fact that in some models within those traditions, the kundalini, the life energy or the consciousness as energy, does not start from the bottom of the body and going up to the top of the head and above, but rather it's starting from the heart. And it's like two lotuses, one is going up and one is going down. That's why in those subtle bodies of those traditions, older than those that are popular today, with the 7 chakras and all that, here we have two lotuses, and we have one lotuses, the Akula Padma, above the top of the head in the space above, and there is another one below the body, below the genitals, the Kula Padma. So it's two lotuses starting from the heart center. They spread one up and one down, and by extending like that, they display the whole spectrum of experiences. And when they go back, when the samputa kurvanti, they again get together, then all experiences disappear. And this is what is alluded to here, I think. Anyway, the commentator does not tell us more, and Ananda does not tell much either, just a practice of introversion. So now verse 50. Om sarvataḥ svaśarīrasya dvādaśānte manolayāt dṛḍhabuddher dṛḍhībhūtaṃ tattvalakṣyam pravartate. So here one should absorb one's attention, hide or emerge one's attention, layāt. Layāt means to go back into one's cause for an effect. One should bring back, one should hide back one's attention, manas. dvādaśānte. So this is again a very important word that we have seen many times. It means literally the end of the 12s, the 12 finger widths. So like 20 centimeters above the top of the head, something like that. And that point is the top of the subtle body, the highest point. And so the highest point in the subtle hierarchy of worlds and states of consciousness. They exist both in the macrocosm and in the individual body. And there is a whole hierarchy going from the heart center up to that space called the end of 12, which is the most subtle, the place where the subtlest energy of consciousness dwells nakedly, because in fact it's all pervading, so it's everywhere, but here it dwells nakedly in and by itself, as itself, in its pure naked form, and it's called unmana, the no mind, the no attention, no division, no fragmentation level of consciousness. Because consciousness has many states, because consciousness is free again. It is free to manifest herself as she wills. So one should sarvataḥ, always at every time, in every condition, in every situation, project, fix one's attention in that space above the head. Svaśarīrasya, so at the end of the 12th of one's own body. So here, instead of a practice of the mantra, instead of a practice of the breath, the end of each out-breath ending in that space above the head, here it is rather a continuous attention to that space above the head. Dṛḍhabuddher, for one who has a clear, stable intelligence, literally, but here again it means just attention. dṛḍhībhūtaṃ tattvalakṣyam pravartate. For one who has a stable intelligence, the aim of the spiritual path, lakṣyam, which is tattva, being, which is dṛḍhībhūtaṃ, which is stable itself, because being is reality, pravartate becomes alive, awakens, pravartate. Prasarati, how to say, it starts moving, it's put into motion. It's put into motion, and prasarati, it's also alludes to the image, the traditional image of the moon, whose nectar is oozing and flowing into the body from that space above the head. And here again we have a wordplay, dṛḍhībhūtaṃ, you see, dṛḍhabuddher, dṛḍhībhūtaṃ tattvam lakṣyam. So tattva, being, is called bhuta, is said to be. Being is being stable, dṛḍha, for someone who has a stable intellect. So anyway, this is a play on sounds, which is very common feature, very common in Sanskrit verses. And the commentator here does not tell us much more, just tell us that consciousness fills the whole body, and to the end of the little little hairs in the body, in the little holes that you have inside the skin. I don't know how to say in English. Les pores de la peau. Oromakupa, the wells. Oromakupantareshu. There, Chaitanya Deva, the God that is consciousness, is praveshena, is also yosti, is also present, is also penetrating, is also pervading there. So just one gives full attention to that space above the head. That's it. That's the practice here. And then that space again becomes alive, becomes active, so to speak. Instead of being dead space in the background, it becomes lively space in the foreground. And Ananda just gives us a quote of the Spanda Shastra, but it's not very enlightening. So let's move to the next and last verse for today, the verse 51. Om yathā tathā yatra tatra dvādaśānte manaḥ kṣipet pratikṣaṇaṃ kṣīṇavṛtter vailakṣaṇyaṃ dinair bhavet. So one should project attention, manas again, in dvādaśānte, in the space above the head, just the same as the previous verse. dvādaśānte manaḥ kṣipet. One should project one's attention in that space above the head. Yathā, tathā, yatra, tatra. In whatever situation, in whatever condition. It's just another way of saying the same thing. And one should do that. One should project one's attention in the space above the head. Pratikṣaṇaṃ, at every instant. And kṣīṇavṛtter, for one who has his mental operations, activities destroyed. Vailakṣaṇyaṃ, that which cannot be defined, that which cannot be characterized. Dinair bhavet, will come about, will happen, shall happen. Dinaihi, in a matter of days, or day after day, more and more, day after day. So again, here you have a play on sounds. Pratikṣaṇaṃ kṣīṇavṛtter vailakṣaṇyaṃ. As you have a play on the sound kṣa, kṣana, kṣa, kṣīna, kṣana, kṣīna, and yathā, tathā, yatra, tatra. So you have many plays on sounds. Anyway, as often in the Vijnana Bhairava tantra, you have a verse beginning with yatra, tatra, or some equivalent that ends a series. And here, verse 51 does end that series of verses on feeling space, of feeling emptiness. Emptiness above the body, below, in the heart, at the end of in-breath, above the head, etc., etc. This all were variations of attention to space, attention to empty space, surrounding space. And the commentators do not give us much more. You see, yathā, tathā, yatra or yatra, tatra, yena prakarena, yasmin vishaye, manolayāt, tathā, tatra, vailakṣaṇyaṃ bhavet. So we have here another interpretation, but there will be another verse more clear on that practice. So I will say no more at the moment. So that's all for today. We had the practice today of paying attention to the space above the head, with closed eyes or without closed eyes, with the support of out-breath, the end of the out-breath. And we had also in the verse 49 the practice of paying attention to the space of the heart, that is, paying attention to the end of in-breath. That's all for today. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.